Hello guys, I'm Sunny Chayes. You see the beautiful beach behind me. I won't even tell you what's going on out in the world because the weather isn't quite this. And we are creating this in this space today though because I want to, and I get to do what I want on this show, so that's pretty cool. I'm really excited. It's been about 4 months or more in the making to have this particular guest on my show today. And we are going to be talking about subjects that are so near and dear to all of us. And one of the most important things that we're going to be chatting about is balance. It's my favorite word for the last year, it feels like. And how is that? How do we do that? How do we have excellence in our life in certain areas? And then really going for it, and does that mean that we let something else go because, gosh, we only have so much time or so much energy? We want to find that way to do that. And so in this book, Know Thyself, we are going to be talking with Dr. Joshua about many, many wise things, and I'm beyond grateful to have him on my show today. And so, Cody, please, let us, without any further ado, after so many months, let us bring on Dr. Josh. Yay, and thank you, and all of that. So I want to say a couple things about you because I didn't want my music to run out. I wanted to make sure that I let people know a couple things about you, and then we're going to drop stuff in as we go, guys. So one thing I find so fascinating is that you're not that old, but you've done so many things. I mean, you have, and I'm going to look at my notes for a minute so I don't screw anything up. You have a master's in psychology, health and human performance. You have a PhD in philosophy. You are a self-made millionaire. You've worked on Skid Row with people there who it's one of the hearts of LA, actually. You are an award-winning psychic, and you also teach meditation, and you have this new beautiful book that's come out, Know Thyself, The 7 Dimensions of Wellness. And so, that's sort of your little small bio in a nutshell, in a little macadamia nutshell. And you also were in sports. You were a college football coach and like that. So welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here, and you look fabulous.
Oh,
and
thank you. As
awesome
do you. So dapper.
To be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I want you to know that I've chatted with the different friends of mine and family members and stuff about the concepts in this book, and I'm reaching for it now because I want to actually read something right away that I really love. There's so many things, but like, for example, in the area of mental wellness, actually, first, I want to let you guys know, it's relational, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, professional, financial. So those are what you've chosen as sort of the broad strokes, but sort of, dividing the pie into 7. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you also have the colors. So many of you guys out there probably know chakra colors and things like that. It's echoed here So, sort of physically, emotionally, in every way we sort of take this in. It enhances our understanding, which I love that. And so I guess my first question to you I'd like to ask you before I do a little bit of reading myself is, or to you guys, is how did you really come up with the 7? Because people come up with 4, 12, and was it on the chakra system, or how is that?
Yeah, thank you. It actually all originated because I grew up without a father.
Oh,
and
I did not know that.
And I wanted to. I was basically on a quest to find out what it meant to be a man. Oh. And so in high school, I had the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Actually, when I was in high school, I had 4, in essence, categories. I didn't call them dimensions of wellnesses at the time. But I would always try to strengthen those 4 aspects because I felt like that was what it meant to be a balanced man. Mm-hmm. And then as the years progressed, I think in my early 20s, it moved into the 7 because I really wanted something that did actually relate to the 7 chakras. And I just felt that the 7 really created a holistic aspect of really who we are.
I love that.
In every faction that we have,
yes,
that it relates to one of those aspects.
I love that. And so that really makes sense. So, yeah, so so the first question I want to ask you, I was chatting with my son who is doing a lot of things in his life. He's 33. He's accomplished a lot already. He has a lot of passions. Thank God. There was a time in his life when he didn't. He had lots of struggles with his dad, unfortunately. And so there was a time when I felt like he was passionless, and it was heartbreaking to me. And then he's got his career going with his work, and then he also started drifting, which is originally it was a Japanese mountain alternative car sport. It's sort of like what you see in Fast and Furious, where the car actually goes sideways, and you don't actually even understand what's going on in the car. They're doing so many things to make them do all the. It's not just NASCAR driving. So he got into this, and he's gone way up in it, and all this kind of thing, and so. He's getting to the place where he feels like he's excellent in it.
Wow.
And we talk all the time about balance because balance, and then I'm also going to bring in gratitude in the mix of the balance and in the mix of the excellence, because his question was, and I said, oh gosh, I'm asking Dr. Josh tomorrow, is sort of how do you balance out the excellence when you're really striving for one of the 7 or 2 of the 7, or like in your case being, I know sports people or musicians or spiritual people, where the spiritual, the emotional and the mental may be very strong, and then the financial and professional, just almost that feeling of St. Francis of Assisi, we must have our prayer bowl, and that's what we do. It makes us more spiritual kind of thing. And so I love that you're about the balance, but I'd love for you to talk about how do you create excellence and then keep the balance?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Yeah, so obviously in our society, everything is focused on, people being 9s and 10s, and making money off of that and being the best that they can be and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I observed, in 12 years of doing psychology work with people, spiritual counseling, and as well as my own self, is that if I only actually just focus on one of the dimensions or even 2 of the dimensions, and yes, I may be a 9 or a 10 in those categories, and I may be excellent in those categories and receive a lot of money because of that, my life or my client's life actually becomes very volatile, because if I actually do not have balance with the 7 dimensions, then another category like the relational or the emotional or the financial can actually deter someone from actually having equilibrium in their life. And so it's not so much that when we talk about balance, it's not so much that we want 7s across the board or 6s across the board. What we want to do is really focus on the things that we are gifted in and excel in those, and become 9s and 10s in 1 or 2 of those areas. But we also don't want to ignore the other aspects of our life to where that's like a 1 or a 2, if we're talking about a scale from 1 to 10. And then because if something's a 1 or 2 or 3, then that's going to create imbalance and eventually actually take away from that 9 or 10 category.
Okay.
Because then now if something is, it is not really going well in our life and in an aspect of our life, then we now need to put more attention on that, which then at some point creates some type of block for the things that we really love doing.
Okay, or not a full flow. And so there were different aspects in this book again that I absolutely love. For example, the idea of the masculine and feminine, of course, not the gender thing, but the energy of that and having that balance. And some of these 7 are a little more masculine, the other more feminine, and balancing that out also facilitates us in having the feminine masculine balance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
again, if we are whatever we, we'll just get to the point. If I'm female and I'm acting female and I'm doing the yummy female stuff and the other stuff intimidates me, maybe the professional, or I'm spiritual, and again, the St. Francis deal. I don't feel that's right. I don't feel that's part of my image. I don't feel like that's, godly or spiritual. And yet I can't pay my bills. There's, as we know in the spiritual community, so many people struggle with finances.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. I mean, I don't use superlatives usually, but it's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And even if they're creating the money, there's still this kind of push-pull. And again, that's sort of the masculine bit, right? And so it's like, but let us invite it all in. Let us celebrate it all. Let us not sort of demonize that or yeah. I mean, in your work, what do you see with that? I mean, do you see it actually as where people are like, oh no, that's not for me, kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was such an excellent point you just made. I've been working with spiritual people and helping them realize financial prosperity for 12 years.
Oh,
that's one of my passions.
Yeah.
Because
So
my
good.
mom, worked 3 jobs. She was an incredible spiritual person, but because she worked 3 jobs, one of my passions is to help spiritual people have that balance, with their financial prosperity.
Well, every spiritual person I know, sacred person, lovely person, big-hearted person, wants to do more for the world. We have really gotten to a place where with different things like social media or this or that, we're aware of more places where we can put money. We have aspects, you guys know I have a bunch of political family members and stuff, and my cousin Sarah is very, very connected in Afghanistan. So when things were going on there, she really knew where to tell people to send money or ask people to send money, or if they wanted to, sort of where to go, so that it could get to the people, because the banks were closed and it was really just a quagmire of heartbreak. So we want to, sometimes, I mean, it's one of the things that I feel that I do on this show is give people places to do it, because we do want to, and it's like, okay, well, where can I do it where it's safe and it makes sense? And then there are so many spiritual people who would love to tithe, who would love to be able to just take a bunch of money and do some amazing thing with it, but they're still struggling. So like you say with your mom and 3 jobs, it doesn't, well, and there's also kind of a shame that comes up. It's like, oh gosh, I mean, I do all this spiritual work. I'm a lovely person. I pray to God every day. I do meditation. I do yoga. I drink green drinks. I do all this stuff. And I'm not sure how I'm paying rent next month, let alone helping the people in, Syria or Ukraine or whatever. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, and
I almost swore. I don't know why. But I was like, that's a bleep, people. That's like...
it is. I feel you on that. Yeah,
damn,
Yeah, and ultimately, what I've found in working with spiritual people with this for the past 12 years is that it's really an emotional block, a subconscious block within themselves, and their perception of money. Because they see money as a representation of all of the unbalance in the world, evil in the world, whatever you want to call it. And actually, that's not true. Money was actually created by masters of metaphysics. Money was actually created by people that were actually extremely spiritual. And money is actually just financial energy. And money is actually just a tool, a magical tool, or a manifestation tool to be used in however way people want to use it. And it can be used for quote unquote good or bad. And money really has no objective but just to be used. And the way that money is being used today is it's not money's fault. It's
Ooh, I love that.
It's a reflection.
It's not money's fault, people. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I love
it's
that.
not.
That's a T-shirt right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is just a reflection of where we are in our mass consciousness in terms of our fear.
Dirty money.
Dirty
these
people.
expressions. Yeah, dirty money. Well, as you were chatting, and we may even go in here a little bit, and this might be a nugget of awesomeness for you guys out there, because I think this is really, as you know, I love being the mythbuster. Today I'm the solutionary seeker, and often I'm the mythbuster extraordinaire or whatever, or the humble mythbuster. And Dr. Josh is a major mythbuster. We had conversations before, and it was like, check, 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 myth-bust. And this money thing. I lived in South Africa for some years, and there's the concept of just, oh my gosh, the situation with money there, or the blood diamonds, or the gold, or the how do people the Africans, the slaves building the White House. I mean, there's so many energies that are so uncomfortable. I feel. I mean, I'll just be honest with you, and I struggle with this because I feel like, gosh, where is the humility? Where again, I'm speaking my truth when I say I've got the St. Francis thing going on. I do. I used to not, and then in the last while, I kind of, do, because it's sort of. And I'm moving out of it, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so if we can chat a little bit more about that, I think it's really interesting, because the abundance, the prosperity, the freedom to have it and be able to be as you are, where you have money to play with. People say, you know what, money can't buy you happiness. Well, I do know it does afford you choices, and it does afford you an openness. And not all people who have money are, bad people. I mean, but it is sort of a thing, isn't it, in our culture?
Yeah, well,
or am I speaking too, sort of negatively? Or, I mean, is it, because I feel like it's a kind of a thing.
Yeah, and for me, what financial energy does.
So bring the light to it. I'm offering you, I'm inviting you, I'm praying for you to bring the light.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. What financial energy does is it's a magnifier. Like when people say, well, more money, more problems. Again, it's not money's fault. Money is a magnifier. It does put whatever imbalances you have in your life on steroids. And so, again...
And the balances?
I'm sorry?
And the balances as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So if there's any weaknesses, the more money that someone has, that money then will exponentiate the weaknesses in that person's life. And so, again, we want to look, first and foremost in terms of our spiritual brothers and sisters that want to actually create prosperity in their life. The first thing to do is to, take out a $20 bill or a $100 bill and actually talk to it.
Ooh.
Because everything in our life is a relationship. We have a relationship to money. We have a relationship to friends. We have a relationship to our car, to our home, everything. Because everything is alive. Everything comes from the oneness. So therefore, it is alive. And money is alive as well. And so if we want to have a healthy relationship with money, we take out a $100 bill from the bank or a $20 bill from the bank, like whatever you can do. And you begin by speaking to it just like you would if you were in a love relationship and you wanted to repair that relationship.
Oh my
God. You speak honestly to it. And you even write a letter to it. And you process it. I call this the purge. Where you say, look, I'm upset about this, and you just let it all out.
So if you have disappointments, if you have sadnesses, if you have not poor me, but like, oh gosh, this could have happened, but it didn't, regrets, things like that too. I mean, you just
absolutely.
Pour all that out.
Everything.
Whew.
Because we know on a psychological level as well as a spiritual level that we want to be honest with ourselves. Only when we're honest with ourselves can we actually change our reality. And so if we want to have a great relationship with money and to be prosperous, then we want to be honest with our relationship with that money. And that's why we want to take out, that $100 bill and speak to it, maybe even write about it. And then once that purge is out, then we go into prayer. And then we hold that $100 bill to our heart, or we put it on our different chakras, or we just make love to it.
Oh my God.
And we come into a different relationship with money. And just by doing that, you're now opening up your Wi-Fi frequency to more insights, more inspirations in terms of how money now wants to have a different relationship with you and to create more of it in your life.
And so does that also attract more opportunities?
Absolutely.
Applause button. I love that. That is, I have never heard that in my entire life. I have never heard, I knew that you were going to be a lot of fun because I've chatted to a lot of people and with a lot of people and listened to a lot of people. Okay, that's totally rocking. I want to read this bit right now, Josh, and then you shall chat after. This is in the section of introduction, actually. This is in the introduction. So I love that I'm doing this because I really love this. The way that we experience our lives when we properly feed our priorities puts us in a consistent state of joy and fulfillment. Some people fear that excellence has to be sacrificed when moving toward a state of balance. Being in balance does not mean sacrificing excellence. There's nothing wrong with excellence. Excellence is a state of being. In fact, it is important that we all do the best we can in each of our given gifts and passions in order for our society to be in harmony. So, again, that means, if we all bring it, it's better for everyone if we all bring it. We've heard this sort of, let's not hide our light under a bushel, the Marianne Williamson quote, which some people say it's Nelson Mandela, but it is actually Marianne. We all know that quote, but I love how you put this here, where it really does do that. It is important that so it is important that we all do our best with our gifts and passions in order for our society to actually be in harmony. However, we must not be so obsessed with being the best in a particular arena that we suffer in the other areas in our lives. It may, however, require our personal definition and idea of what excellence is to change, which is an interesting point, because we may think, sort of that obsession or something like that, and it may not need to be something to the detriment or to the not looking or ignoring the other six. It can mean an excellence in a way that is lovely and peaceful, and not, working out 17 hours a day, obsessiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. In the 10 plus years as a professional counselor, I have observed that the source of our unhappiness can come from having our 7 dimensions of wellness not be in balance. And then you go on to say balance and success in one dimension, I love this, should spill into the experience of the other dimensions, creating a cascade of joy and fulfillment. The dimensions of our lives are not supposed to be disconnected from one another. Healthy living is balanced living. The 7 dimensions of wellness, when fed, intended to daily bring peace, joy, fulfillment, and balance our lives. Again, the applause. And not for me, but for Dr. Josh. That is so, thank you. Thank you. I want you to chat a little bit. I want to go to the Aboriginal people of our world, of our planet. I'm doing work, and my family lived with the Bushmen for a short bit of the Kalahari Desert when we lived there many years ago, 50 years ago. I'm doing some work about them now, which I'll tell you guys about later. You lived at different times in the Amazon, in the Amazon, with the elders, the Pachamama people, which means, of course, Mother Earth. You guys know that, I'm sure. Chat do you like my segue? Is this a cool time to talk about
Absolutely.
excellence and balance and
Yes.
get to the root of the matter, the heart of the matter, as the Eagles say?
Sure. Yeah. And I love that we share that same passion, for the Amazon.
Yes.
I've been in love with the Amazon since I was 14 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
And the first time that I went down there was just such a blessing. It really is a different entity. You can feel the life down there. And, to be walking around barefoot, to
Yes.
not have all of the, different things that we have in our society that kind of blocks us from from nature.
Yeah.
And of course, nature.
And again, we are nature. So even
Exactly.
saying, it's like
Exactly. Yeah.
blocking us from ourselves.
Absolutely. Really, nature being our natural way, like we're blocking our way from our natural way of being. And so, those experiences down there were such incredible gifts to learn about their medicines, to learn about their spirituality, to live a life without a clock, without really time, it's incredible. But I think, overall, in terms of the spiritual evolution of all of this, is that we used to be very, all of us, in our humanity, used to be very tribunal. We used to be a part of the tribe, meaning that that we all had a role to excel in, so that the tribe would survive.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
and that is like with anything, there's the yin and the yang, right? There's the sun and the moon. And so that was a beautiful way of living. However, there's also the moon side of that as well, which is that because immediately when we're born into a tribe, we have a role given, we can never expand outside of the consciousness of that tribe.
Okay.
And so that's what the purpose of the United States of America was to actually create balance and bring individuality into the mix. Because the whole aspect of the United States of America, which were created by Deitists and Masons, and Masons are about reaching your highest potential and creating the body temple within to become a master in the body. And in order to do that, we must have freedom. And so obviously this dream of individuality and freedom, which is what our country's about, went into an extreme aspect of the ego, which is why our society is the way it is right now. But eventually we will also come into balance and realize that the tribe aspect and the individual aspect must coexist for all of us as sentient beings to succeed, as well as for our spiritual evolution to occur.
Beautiful, beautiful. So the honoring, when I think of the Bushmen, I've had such incredible conversations lately. I'm interviewing them because they are wanting to give me the wisdom that they know, because the South African government is pushing them off the land. It's so, it's heartbreaking. And so I get to ask them questions like, I know that you know that the earth knows the truth. And actually, it is, the earth is truth. And those are beautiful words, and I can say that to you, and Cody can hear it, and you guys can hear it out there, and it's like, oh, that's lovely, and it's beautiful. But what does that actually mean? Really, I mean, let's get real for just a minute here. Like, do we actually understand what that means? And the Bushmen do. And it's not even an understanding, it's a knowing, it's a feeling, it's a way of life and all that. So these are the conversations that I have with them and we have. So that so my question to you then, just to go a little deeper with this that you're chatting about, this sort of modern American thing and the indigenous peoples, is that the honoring the balance, because I do believe, even though you're saying, you're born into something and you sort of have not as much freedom, there is a balance of love. There is kind of a necessary balance, because it means survival.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an honoring of what everyone does. There is a real hope and expectation that people will be excellent in hunting and gathering
Right.
and whatever it is they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The medicine people, all the different elements, the people who are reading the weather. I mean, all the things, there's lots of astronomy, this kind of thing. And then bringing that to this conversation of the United States of America, I find very interesting. I mean, this is once again, like a really cool conversation, because how do we balance that? Perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight about how we can honor the truth of the peoples and this sort of modern way of being.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really comes back to...
In, 3 minutes. As opposed to 45 days.
Yeah, it really comes back to coming into our natural way of being, which really ultimately, first and foremost, means to come back into alignment with the thou aspect in terms of our relationship with nature, instead of the it relationship with nature. The it relationship actually came from the Judeo-Christianity and Catholic Church, where those teachings originated from, this false teaching, this false aspect, this false interpretation of the Bible, which was that God gave us Mother Earth, and it's under our control and under our
sort of to use as we please.
Exactly. And that actually that viewpoint is actually what gave birth to the Industrial Revolution that took place in the 19th century, that the transcendentalists of Emerson, Thoreau, and Whitman actually warned us against. They actually predicted everything that we are experiencing now. But
the out of balance.
Yeah, exactly. And so we must first see everything as a thou, meaning that we see everything as a sentient being. We see everything as alive.
Yes.
And when we come back into that viewpoint, then our natural way now starts to unfold beautifully.
Okay.
And when we go back into the truth, as what I love how Bruce Springsteen said it back in, I believe, 1987, before he sang Chimes of Freedom, he said, "No one wins unless everyone wins."
Yes.
And that is the tribal aspect. That is the tribal
Martin
truth.
Luther King too. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And
The weakest link, all of that.
right.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. And so as you're saying that, I'm thinking another area that I want to make sure we chat about today is sort of language and words. And so one of the areas of my life that I'm enjoying shifting, because I have this show and we use a lot of words on this show, or we enjoy a lot of words, and I write too, is shifting those words. And so one of the words that the after the industrial, whatever we want to call it, I don't even know what word to say after that. I'll just say blank. Is the idea that water, trees, soil are resources. That word is very, very damaging because it takes the idea that we are, and of course the slaves were resources. The Chinese that came over to build the the train tracks were resources. They were actual resources. I mean, of course, the slaves, the women having babies, and then that new baby was born. That was property. It was a resource to build that building and plow the fields and all that. And we've taken it too also. I mean, that's, again, heartbreaking. And shifting that word again. I mean, we never really, I shouldn't say never, but it feels so differently when we just don't say that. Right? Because it's back to that, we just get to use whatever we want.
Right.
Use it up, throw it out. And again, there is no throwing out anything, and there is no, we know energy just continues. And so just shifting that word, right? So we understand that we are, it's that sort of, we are all equal. We are as equal. The tree, of course, I feel is very, very valuable, like way beyond. That's a whole other show.
Sure.
To honor and to know the humility of us to be able to grasp, to feel, to invite in that we are as important, no less though, not more though, not less than, that river, that body of water, that land, right? Don't you think?
Absolutely.
It's like, come on, guys, let's get it together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wake up.
Yeah, because if we really believe in oneness,
yes,
then everything is a part of the oneness. And to support your point on that is that, yes, we're not above or below anything. We are all one in the beautiful kaleidoscope of what God is, or what Spirit is.
Yes.
And so when we look at things like that, then everything is in partnership with us.
Yes.
And so it is great to be able to drink water, because that is one of water's purposes, to hydrate and to support the human species. But while we're drinking it, we don't take it for granted. We take it with, yes.
Let us clink our glasses.
Yes.
And let us celebrate.
Amen. Yes, we take it with love and with gratitude that this water exists to nourish myself and to support my life.
And yes, and the gratitude of knowing that, the honoring of that. And again, I know I'm chatting about the indigenous peoples, but I think of many different tribes of the Native Americans where there are ceremonies, the Balinese, the many peoples of our earth have so many ceremony about so many things. The fire, the light, the moon, the stars, the water, absolutely. The water to come and water the crops, the water to not come too much, the water to go into our cells, and our mitochondria can dance around happily in that crystally water, and that's pink and gold, or whatever we want to visualize in ourselves, and knowing the honoring, and as we drink it, even just as we were drinking it right now, I was thinking about our body temple and realizing so many things go on in our body temple that are just magical. Like, as I took this sip of water, I felt it going down my body, down my throat and everything. And I was thinking, guys, what is it like when we swallow 2,000 times a day? Okay, so you knew that, you didn't know that, you didn't care, now you may care. What if you have a sore throat? What if you have throat cancer? You appreciate being able to swallow. Gallons of blood have gone through our hearts as we're sitting here in this 40 minutes. Do we think about that? No. But if we have a problem, yeah. And so I think that's sort of something back to this sort of excellence. And I love this concept, again, of the Venn diagram, where things work with everything else. I think that we have a tendency of focusing on a quote-unquote problem or challenge we have. Like, for example, we don't think of our throat until we have a sore throat. And then it's like, whoosh, bring me a popsicle or something, whatever. And to be able to honor, like Aboriginal people do, all the systems of our body, the endocrine, all the different systems as they reflect in nature, and that is why we are nature, and all it's all symbiotic and all that. So again, with the idea of the excellence and the balance of the professional, financial, relational, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, I'm giving you guys a little, so you can take a quiz at the end of this. How that works. And so when we do have something that feels out of balance, like a sore throat or a kidney issue or a broken leg or something that goes on in our body, the truth is we have millions of things that are working perfectly every millisecond of every second of every day of every, millions of things. And yet we say, oh gosh, darn it, my tooth aches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like you have something to say to that. It's not really a question, but I just want to have me stop talking and have you talk.
Yeah, no, I think you put it perfectly. To be in gratitude before something's wrong, because if we stay in that gratitude of everything that is supporting us in our life, then we won't come out of balance with that. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I do want to share, with the 9 times that I've been down to the Amazon, is that there's kind of this perception right now that the indigenous live better than we do, and that's actually not true.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No.
Is that
let us not glamorize or romanticize.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, and that there's no question. I mean, the indigenous are very in touch and very spiritual and incredible people that we can learn from in so many ways. That's why I've been down there 9 times. But they have the same issues that we do. They're still human,
right?
And they do actually respect us, for what we've been able to create.
Interesting.
They do acknowledge that we are out of balance with Mother Nature, and that we are sick in that way. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they also, respect in the fact that we have created a metal object that can fly in the sky, to use their words.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So this is the whole thing is coming back to that balance is, our Western society has mastered a lot of things, and the tribal communities, the indigenous, they've mastered a lot of things. And if we can come together in dialogue, we can truly learn from each other.
Yes.
And create a balance and create harmony. And we can learn how, once again, to live with Mother Nature instead of against it.
Bioneers. Do you know about Bioneers?
No.
The organization Bioneers, they are an incredible, you guys just Googled them, Bioneers. They're in California, and they do an incredible amount of balancing, weaving together with the native peoples, especially in the Pachamama lands and other lands, and young people and all of that. And they have contests with young people to invent things, and it's called biomimicry. And so it's exactly what you're talking about. It's taking bio and mimicking it, taking something that really works. Like the beetle has a really interesting way of trapping water. And then so there are ways to put that ingeniously into mechanisms where water can be captured in places like Saudi Arabia, where it needs to be captured, things like this. So again, the ingenuity, the science, the massively brilliant minds that we have, let's just say in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm just saying that. I mean, they're everywhere. But, to balance that out with the acknowledgement, the honoring, and the respect, and the curiosity and interest to play in that whole bit, right? I mean, let's just play there and expand there. And I know that we're going to be running to our end of our time, so there are a few things I want to make sure we get in. And again, it's the word thing, but I want to bring in this word that I love that I think you made it up. I don't know. Endogenous?
Endogenous.
Okay, we say it endogenous.
Yeah. So,
okay.
That actually came from Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Okay.
And,
well, that's right.
Yeah.
But you're popularizing it, I feel. Bring it, Dr. Josh, bring it.
Yeah. So
please do.
So the whole word, the whole aspect of the endogenous what Emerson says is that in essence, that our survival, what's unique about the human species and compared to animals or plants, is that our survival is not dependent on environment. Our survival is dependent on the environment within ourselves.
Okay.
And that's
I
where,
like that.
and that's where our human species is in evolution, from, the animal kingdom. And so in essence, it doesn't, what Emerson is saying is that it doesn't matter what's happening externally. It matters only what's happening internally.
Beautiful. Yeah. I want to read something else before we go, and our lovely and talented engineer is giving us 5 more minutes. So I want to speak a little bit about the Commit2SIT app. I signed up for it, and it's super cool. And so I want to, before we go, make sure that people know sort of how to get to you and how to get the book and all that kind of stuff, because that's what we do here also. Because I know after this show, you guys are going to really want to get at all this stuff. So we have the cover that's going to come up magically right now. And then we are going to also tell you that it's available. So you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. Do people go to your website too? Or what do you prefer? Does it matter?
Just go on the Amazon or
all
Barnes & Noble.
the normal, usual suspect places, all that.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the Commit2SIT. So please do it, guys. One of the things that I love about this book, one of the many, is that it is very small and it's very crumpled up now because I've really worked it. I have all kinds of notes and things, and oh my goodness. So get it, use it. It really is a workbook. It has lots and lots of, at the end of every chapter, for example, it really takes you through steps, or Dr. Josh actually takes you through steps to internalize it, kind of work with it, and really make it real for you, make it really happen for you. So that's one thing I want to make sure that you guys go and get it. And then the other thing that I really dig is this meditation app, Commit2SIT. I read it, I sort of started it, and what I love is that it's bite-sized pieces, guys. So it's 1 minute first, and yet the Commit2SIT is a concept of a program, which is 40 days. So the idea, and most of us know a new habit and all that kind of thing. So it is also very user-friendly. And in the app, you show the people how to sit, just what your posture should be, how to breathe, all these things. So it's great for the beginner. It's a great refresher course for those of us out there who have done all kinds of things for a long time. You do sort of show the differences, and you kind of choose your favorite, so you just present that, so which is nice, because it's like, oh my gosh, if we have to just choose everything, it would be forever. So you have that, you kind of do the editing for us, the vetting for us, and then it's 1 minute, and then the next day is 2 minutes, and the next day is 3 minutes, and then if we get to a day like day 7 or 9 or whatever, where we miss a day, then we're meant to go back to the first day, but go back to that day at 7 minutes, right? And then you go to the next day 8 and all that. And so what you're doing is working us up to 40 minutes. And I just love that. It's a very beautiful app, guys. So again, you get it at the App Store.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
on the iPhone, the Apple iStore, and very well.
I mean, it's really
said.
easy to do. I mean, I did it. We all know that's like, okay, great. And I also want to say that you're working on a lot of projects. So this is one thing, but guys, I really would love for you to just sort of Google Dr. Joshua, go to his website, drjoshua.org, if you guys are just hearing this, and check out all the different treats, because more things are going to be coming. It's, as we always say, I don't know anybody who doesn't say, oh, I'm working on my website, it's not quite done. It's always a work in progress, but check it out anyway, and then stay tuned in the next 2 weeks or whatever, because more stuff's going to be coming out. And you're working on a couple books, but one is we're going to get at pretty soon, and that's the language one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yay.
Yes.
I like it. And I, Yes, and so please, 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 the use of words, magic. Like for example, we were chatting, and you were saying manifest isn't. Of course, I mean, oh my goodness, for what has it been, 20 years now, that word. Oh, and so, but to shift that to magic. You know, we had so much chatting about that, and I'm really excited that you're doing a book about it, because I think, you know, again, just even in the conversation we've had in this last bit about really making that happen. So, yes, and I'm going to finish because there's one little thing I want to read from your book, but I want to ask you if there's anything else you want to share with the peeps before before.
Well, yeah, just to elaborate, you know, in terms of what you just mentioned, you know, manifestation actually came, the epistemology of manifestation actually came from the 13th century, and it was created out of fear. It was created out of fear because the Catholic Church started persecuting the people that, not started, but, you know, but
Continued,
continued to persecute the people that were using magic. But in the magic that I teach, it's actually MAJIK. It is not the MAGICK, you know, of the Wiccan origin. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, all indigenous tribes use magic, MAGICK. It works. It's beautiful. But the magic that I teach, the MAJIK, is the one that relates to what humans today call manifestation.
Oh, beautiful. And so I'm going to read this really quickly because I love it, but not too quickly. This is in the book, and it is, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And that's Romans 12:2. And I also want to read this where Dr. Josh says, in this book, we have broken down the 7 dimensions of wellness and the ways to improve each. They are all a part of us, guys, like they are, feeding us, of course, I'm annotating here, feeding us as a symbiotic whole. This is why achieving a level of balance between all facets of our life is a true way to self-actualization. So now we have the formula finally. To know myself and to make an effort each day in improving myself is a life lived for growth. And in this growth, all possibilities exist in the universe. Oh, I'm going to start crying. For it is our nature to do so. Natural comes from the word nature. If we observe nature, it is always growing and evolving. Yes, so true. Thus, growing is our natural way of being. It is our natural way to grow, just like every sentient being on this planet. The universe expands, so do we, when we make a commitment to growth. Let us have applause, please. So Dr. Josh, the time has come where we must say goodbye because I'm starting to get emotional. And so we bow to each other as we do. We clink our glasses as we do. We honor our ability to drink as we are doing now.
Amen.
And we say goodbye to you guys. And until next time, this is Sunny. And do something for yourself today that your future self will thank you for. Bye.
Bye.